What's up, everyone? We're here at Carolina Bully Farms. Chubby's walking around handing a stick to everybody. We did a video with him earlier, and he's still talking about his stick. I know, it's impressive, buddy. But one thing I was going to talk about today, a lot of people don't know a lot about, or they've got different misinformation about it, is bullies and being a mixed breed or coming from mixed breeds, and what mixing breeds causes in bullies, and what some of the consequences of doing that are. You know, a lot of people think bullies are just a pit bull mixed with a bulldog, which is not true. They come from a long, about 20 years worth of selectively breeding pit bulls and Staffordshire Terriers to, you know, kind of weed out some traits and lock in on other traits, you know, the shorter, wider look. And of course, along the lines, there is some mixing of breeds has happened, and you can't know exactly where it was or what, you know, what happened when it, you know, looking back through the generations, you don't know what dog was mixed and what dog wasn't. But, you know, most bullies up until a certain point was mostly bred just from Staffordshire Terriers and pit bulls. And now around the, I guess it would be like the 2013 or so mark, when well, you know, they was getting shorter and wider, and you know, you get to a point where you can't go much further than that, and then people started trying to get into the exotics and doing the mixed breed to get there. And the problem with doing that is you don't know what your pedigree truly is. You don't know where it's coming from, so you don't know how to go from there on breeding and what traits that the dog could be producing, good or bad, looks wise and also health wise. You don't know what you're breeding and what to breed away from or add in, or what the dog needs, because you don't really know what it is and what you're getting. And I'm not saying people's necessarily doing something wrong by doing that. They are, you know, that's how new breeds are created. But being honest about it's important, and, you know, letting people know what's up. I mean, if you're wanting to change the breed that drastically, don't keep calling it the same breed. When you do that, also mixing the breeds, you get inconsistent dogs. You know, you might have this dog that's produced, and I mean, it's not always going to be the case. You know, sometimes a completely truly bred bully is going to have a dog or two come out that just don't look the way everything else does. That's just because of genetics, and you can pull traits from different places, and that can happen. But when you get a dog whose half of the litter looks like little aliens and half of the litter looks like game dogs, that's because it's pulling genetics from two totally different breeds, and that causes that. It causes inconsistency, and it makes it really hard to plan out breedings. And so that's just a little bit of background on the mix and breeds and things, you know, and why it's not a good thing to do. Or if you are, you know, there's one registry, I don't remember the name of it, but the guy was like, yeah, I'm going to mix these breeds together. I'll list out the pedigree of both dogs and have it on there, and I forget what he called them, but I don't think it caught on so much, probably because he was honest about it. But it was a good idea because it still lets you know what you're working with. And that's what's important if you're going to be breeding, is knowing the pedigree. People act like you can just take, this dog looks good and this dog looks good, so their puppies will look good. It's not really that simple. It's how you can have two athletic parents have a fat little kid because maybe their grandparents was this or that or whatever. You know, you don't know where the genetics could come from. So that's why we always go back at least 4 generations into our pedigrees, and we've bred those 4 generations now at this point, so we know the dogs are true and where they come from. And we look and see, like if I'm breeding Chubby Elisa, I know Chubby's parents, I know his grandparents, I know their parents, and I know the same thing on Lisa. And, you know, with most of the dogs that we have here now, I bred all those dogs, and so I know that they truly come from where it says they come from, and I know what they produce, and I know extremely well how my blood works with everything else and what it'll produce. So doing that can create a whole lot more consistency in your breedings. So just keep that in mind when you're planning anything out or looking at dogs. Thanks for watching, everyone. Remember to like, favorite, and subscribe, and God bless.